Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research ship Horizon, watching the stars drift past the main window. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gentle hands that had never held a weapon. His wife, Lisa, worked 3 decks below in the science lab, studying rock samples from distant worlds. They had been married for 8 years and still smiled at each other every morning. The Horizon was not a warship. It carried no guns, no shields, no armor. It was built for one purpose, to explore the galaxy and learn new things. Jake and his crew of 12 people spent their days mapping star systems and collecting samples. They were scientists, not soldiers. Commander Peter Davis walked up to Jake with a worried look on his face. Peter was Jake's best friend since college. They had joined the Earth Space Service together 15 years ago. Peter handled all the ship's computers and communication systems. "Jake, we have a problem," Peter said quietly. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace behind us. They're big ones. Jake turned to look at the tactical screen. 3 massive warships hung in space like metal sharks. Their hulls were covered in crystal spikes that caught the starlight. Jake recognized the design immediately. They were Zephyrian Empire vessels, and they were moving toward the Horizon fast. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. "Let's see what they want." The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead Zephyrian ship. A creature sat in the command chair that looked like it was made of living crystal. Its body was tall and thin, covered in sharp edges that reflected light like broken glass. This was War Commander Thraktar, one of the Empire's most feared military leaders. "Human vessel." Thraktar's voice came through the speakers like grinding stone. "You are trespassing in Zephyrian space. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Jake stepped forward calmly. "War Commander, I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth research vessel Horizon. We're in the Kepler 442 system conducting mineral surveys. According to the Galactic Council treaties, this is neutral space. We have permits." Thraktar's crystal face showed no emotion. "The Empire claims this system. Your permits mean nothing. You have 60 seconds to leave." "Sir, we're not here to cause trouble," Jake said. "We're just scientists. We're happy to share our research data with your people. Maybe we can help each other." Lisa appeared at Jake's side. She had rushed up from the lab when she heard about the Zephyrian ships. Her face was pale, but determined. "Jake, maybe we should just go," she whispered. Jake took her hand. "We have every right to be here, Lisa. We're not doing anything wrong." On the screen, Thraktar stood up from his chair. His crystal body caught the light from his ship's bridge, making him look like a living weapon. "Humans are weak," he said with disgust. "Your species crawled into space only 50 years ago. You think you can claim equal rights with races that have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years?" "We don't want to rule anything," Jake replied. "We just want to learn and explore in peace." "Peace." Thraktar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Your weakness disgusts me. The galaxy has watched humans for decades, pretending to be explorers and scientists. But we know what you really are. Cowards who hide behind the Galactic Council's protection." Peter touched Jake's arm. "Jake, our sensors show they're charging weapons." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "War Commander, please. We have families back on Earth. We're not soldiers. We're just trying to do our jobs." "Your job," Thraktar said, "is to learn your place in the galaxy, and your place is beneath us." The War Commander raised one crystal hand. On his ship's bridge, Jake could see other Zephyrian warriors preparing weapon systems. The main guns of all 3 warships began to glow with deadly energy. "Please," Lisa spoke up from beside Jake. "We have children serving on this crew, young people just starting their careers. They don't deserve to die for being in the wrong place." Thraktar looked directly at Lisa through the screen. His crystal eyes reflected no mercy. "Then you should have taught them not to trespass in Zephyrian space." Jake stepped in front of his wife, protecting her from the War Commander's cold stare. "If you're going to murder innocent people, at least have the courage to look us in the eye while you do it." "Murder?" Thraktar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "This is not murder, human. This is education. The galaxy needs to learn that the Empire will not tolerate weakness or disrespect. Your deaths will teach other species to know their place. The war commander made a gesture with his hand. Across subspace communication channels throughout the galaxy, the signal went out. Every ship, every station, every world with communication equipment would receive the broadcast. They would all watch what happened next. Let this be a lesson, Thraktar announced to the galaxy. This is what happens to those who challenge the Zephyrian Empire. Watch and learn. Jake pulled Lisa close to him. Around the bridge, his crew gathered together. Chief Engineer Mark Wilson put his arm around young Lieutenant Carol Adams, who had just turned 23 last week. Communications Officer Steve Parker held the hand of his girlfriend, Medical Officer Amy Foster. They were all so young, so full of dreams about exploring the stars. "I'm sorry," Jake whispered to his crew. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you." "You tried, Captain," Peter said quietly. "You tried to do the right thing." Jake looked into the camera that was broadcasting their final moments across the galaxy. "My name is Jake Morrison. I'm a scientist from Earth. I never hurt anyone in my life. Neither did my crew. We came to the stars to learn and explore. We wanted to make friends with other species and share knowledge. If this is how the galaxy treats people like us, then maybe the galaxy needs to change." War Commander Thraktar raised his hand for the final time. "Fire all weapons." The 3 Zephyrian warships unleashed their full power at once. Beams of pure energy struck the small research vessel from every angle. The Horizon had no shields, no armor, no way to defend itself. The ship simply vanished in a flash of white light, taking Jake Morrison, his wife Lisa, and their 11 crew members with it. Where the Horizon had been, only empty space remained. Debris scattered in all directions, tiny pieces of metal and plastic that had once been home to 13 people who wanted nothing more than to explore the stars in peace. Thraktar watched the destruction with satisfaction. "Let this be remembered," he broadcast to the galaxy. "The Zephyrian Empire shows no mercy to those who challenge our authority. Humans are weak, and weakness will not be tolerated." The war commander ended the transmission and ordered his ships to return to Zephyrian space. He believed he had just solved a small problem by removing some annoying humans from his territory. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 12 hours later, the transmission reached Earth. In the capital, city of New Geneva, Admiral Rebecca Stone sat in her office watching Jake Morrison's final moments. Her hands shook as she saw the young captain trying to protect his wife and crew. She watched the moment when 13 innocent people died for no reason, except one alien's desire to prove his strength. Admiral Stone had 2 sons serving in the Earth fleet. She understood what Jake Morrison's parents were feeling right now. She understood the rage that was building in every human heart across Earth and its colonies. The Admiral reached for her secure communication device and began making calls. It was time for the galaxy to learn something new about humanity. It was time to show them what happened when someone killed their people. The Zephyrians thought they had just eliminated some weak humans. What they had actually done was wake up something that had been sleeping in human hearts since their species first learned to make fire. War Commander Thraktar had wanted to teach the galaxy about strength. Soon he would learn what real strength looked like when it was unleashed by the one species that understood both mercy and vengeance better than any other race in the galaxy. Jake Morrison was dead, but his death would change everything. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood in the center of Earth's most secret military facility, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with officers she had handpicked over the past 10 years. Each one had sworn an oath that they would take their secrets to the grave. Today, those secrets would finally see the light of day. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Stone began, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her eyes. 3 days ago, War Commander Thraktar of the Zephyrian Empire murdered 13 innocent humans. He broadcast their deaths across the galaxy as a warning to other species. He thinks he has taught us about strength. She pressed a button on the table in front of her. The lights dimmed and a massive holographic display filled the center of the room. It showed the Kepler 442 system where Jake Morrison had died. But now, instead of empty space, the display revealed something that should have been impossible. Dozens of human warships hung in the darkness around the system, They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These ships were built for one purpose: war. Their hulls were black as space itself, covered in weapons that could crack planets in half. They had been hidden there for years, waiting for the day they would be needed. The Zephyrians believe humans are weak, Admiral Stone continued. They think we achieved spaceflight through luck and that we hide behind the Galactic Council for protection. They are about to learn how wrong they are. General Marcus Cole stepped forward. He was a big man with scars on his hands and a face that had seen too many battles. For 20 years he had been preparing for this moment. His soldiers were ready, his plans were perfect, and his patience was at an end. Project Omega has been active for 30 years, General Cole announced. While the galaxy watched us build research ships and exploration vessels, we were also building the most advanced military force in known space. Every species we have met, every world we have visited, every technology we have seen, we have studied it all. Dr. Helen Park stood up from her chair. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes behind thick glasses. She looked like someone's grandmother, but she was actually the most dangerous person in the room. Her mind had created weapons that could destroy entire civilizations. The Prometheus Initiative began the day we made first contact with alien life, Dr. Park explained. We knew that someday someone would test our resolve. We have prepared for that day by learning everything about every species in the galaxy, their biology, their technology, their fears, their weaknesses. We know how to fight them all. She touched a control on her tablet. The holographic display changed to show detailed plans of Zephyrian military bases, ship designs, and even biological studies of their crystal-based bodies. The information was incredibly detailed, gathered over decades of careful observation. The Zephyrians are proud of their crystal armor, Dr. Park said with a cold smile. They believe it makes them invincible. What they do not know is that we have developed weapons specifically designed to shatter crystalline structures. Their greatest strength will become their greatest weakness. Colonel Ryan Mitchell sat quietly in the corner of the room. He was the kind of man who spoke with actions instead of words. His special forces teams had been training for this mission for years. He knew every Zephyrian military base, every patrol route, every weakness in their defenses. Operation Requiem begins tonight, Colonel Mitchell said simply. My teams are already in position throughout Zephyrian space. We have been there for months, watching and waiting. When the Admiral gives the order, we will show them what human soldiers can do. Lieutenant Sophie Barnes checked her equipment one more time. She was an expert with explosives, able to destroy entire buildings with charges no bigger than a coin. Her job was to hit the Zephyrian communication centers first, cutting off their ability to coordinate their defenses. Sergeant Carl Johnson was already invisible, using stealth technology that made him impossible to detect. He could walk through a Zephyrian base without anyone knowing he was there. His mission was to gather intelligence about their troop movements and weapon stores. Admiral Stone walked to a secure communication terminal. She entered a series of codes that had never been used before. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began to activate. In the asteroid belt beyond Pluto, massive construction yards came online for the first time in decades. Captain Nicole Roberts received the activation signal aboard the dreadnought Vengeance. Her ship was the size of a small city, armed with weapons that could turn moons into dust. She had been waiting in the cold darkness of space for 5 years, her crew ready for the moment when they would finally go to war. All stations, this is Admiral Stone, the communication system crackled. Operation Requiem is now active. Show them what happens when they kill our people. Commander Tony Martinez smiled as he read the orders. His squadron of stealth destroyers had been designed specifically to fight crystalline-based species. Their weapons fired sonic frequencies that could shatter Zephyrian armor from the inside out. He had dreamed of this moment for his entire career. The first target was a Zephyrian mining colony on Theta Serpentis. It was a small world with only military installations and automated equipment. No civilians lived there, which made it perfect for humanity's first demonstration of power. Commander Angela Price led the attack. Her stealth ships approached the planet completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The enemy defenders had no warning, no time to prepare, No chance to call for help. The attack was over in minutes. Every military installation on Theta Serpentis was destroyed. Weapon depots exploded in chains of fire that could be seen from orbit. Communication arrays melted into slag. The mining equipment was reduced to twisted metal. But the automated systems that kept the planet's atmosphere stable were left untouched. This was not about genocide. This was about sending a message. When the attack was over, Commander Price activated a special communication device. It broadcast a message in perfect Zephyrian language, written in letters of fire across the planet's surface. You killed Jake Morrison. This is your first lesson in consequences. War Commander Thraktar received the news of the attack in his command center on the Zephyrian homeworld. His crystal face showed confusion and anger. How had humans managed to destroy an entire military base without any warning? Their ships were supposed to be weak exploration vessels, not invisible warships. It must have been a terrorist attack, Thraktar told his officers. A desperate act by cowards who cannot face us in open battle. Double the patrols around all our military installations. These humans will pay for their crimes. But deep down, Thraktar felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The attack on Theta Serpentis had been too precise, too professional. It was not the work of desperate terrorists. It was the work of soldiers who knew exactly what they were doing. On Earth, Admiral Stone watched the reports from the attack. Her officers were celebrating, but she remained calm. This was only the beginning. The Zephyrians still did not understand what they were facing. They still thought humans were weak creatures who got lucky with one surprise attack. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, Admiral Stone announced. Colonel Mitchell, deploy your teams to all major Zephyrian installations. I want them to understand that nowhere is safe. Captain Roberts, take the Vengeance to the edge of their home system. Let them see what a real human warship looks like. Dr. Park was already working on the next phase of her plan. She had weapons that could target the crystal formations in Zephyrian bones, making their own bodies turn against them. She had sonic devices that could drive their species insane with fear. She had studied them for so long that she knew them better than they knew themselves. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. For 50 years, humans had appeared to be peaceful explorers who preferred diplomacy to war. They had seemed weak, dependent on the protection of stronger species. They had been content to study and learn rather than conquer and destroy. But that was only half the truth. The other half was about to be revealed in fire and blood, and the screams of crystal beings who had made the worst mistake in galactic history. Humans were not weak. They were patient. They were not helpless. They were prepared. They did not seek war, but when war came to them, they were very, very good at it. Jake Morrison had been a scientist who wanted to explore the stars in peace. His death had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping since they first reached for the sky. Now that something was awake, and it was hungry for justice. War Commander Thraktar wanted to teach the galaxy about strength. Soon he would learn what real strength looked like when 13 billion humans decided that enough was enough. The lesson was about to begin. Captain Danny White sat in a dark room filled with screens and communication equipment. He had once been a teacher before joining Earth's military. Now he used his understanding of how minds work to create fear in the hearts of humanity's enemies. His job was to make the Zephyrians understand that they had made a terrible mistake. Danny pressed a button and Jake Morrison's final transmission began broadcasting across every communication channel in Zephyrian space. The crystal beings watched as the human captain tried to reason with War Commander Thraktar. They saw Lisa Morrison's terrified face in the background. They heard Jake's final words about wanting to explore the stars in peace. Then the transmission switched to footage of the burning military bases on Theta Serpentis. The explosions lit up the night sky like deadly fireworks. The message was clear. This is what happens when you murder innocent humans. Attention Zephyrian Empire, Danny's voice echoed across their worlds. You killed Jake Morrison because you thought humans were weak. You broadcast his death to teach the galaxy about your strength. Now we will teach you about consequences. On the Zephyrian homeworld, citizens gathered around public screens to watch the human transmission. Many of them had never seen the footage of Jake Morrison's death before. Their government had told them it was a military victory against dangerous invaders. But the human captain looked nothing like a dangerous invader. He looked like someone trying to protect his family. Dr. Amanda Foster had spent 15 years studying alien psychology. She knew exactly what frightened each species in the galaxy. For the crystal-based Zephyrians, their greatest fear was shattering. Their entire culture was built around the strength and beauty of their crystalline bodies. Amanda had designed weapons that would turn that strength against them. The next phase of her plan began when human ships appeared in orbit around Zephyrian military worlds. These ships were equipped with sonic weapons that produced specific sound, frequencies. When the weapons fired, they made no visible beam of light. But every Zephyrian who heard the sound felt their crystal armor begin to crack from the inside. Major Katie Lewis led a team of specialists who had been studying Zephyrian infrastructure for years. They knew which power stations supplied their major cities. They knew which communication relays connected their military bases. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum confusion with minimum loss of life. Katie's team moved like ghosts through Zephyrian space. They appeared without warning, destroyed their targets with surgical precision, and vanished before enemy forces could respond. Within a week, half of the Zephyrian Empire's communication network was destroyed. Lieutenant Bobby Clark was an expert at electronic warfare. He could hack into alien computer systems and make them do whatever he wanted. His specialty was turning the enemy's own technology against them. When Zephyrian commanders tried to coordinate their defenses, they found their orders being changed or deleted. When they tried to call for reinforcements, they discovered their messages were being sent to empty space. Sergeant Lucy Adams focused on supply lines. She knew that armies needed food, fuel, and ammunition to fight. She also knew exactly where the Zephyrians kept their supplies. Her job was to make sure those supplies never reached the front lines. Lucy's team struck like lightning at convoy routes and supply depots. Zephyrian soldiers found themselves stranded on distant worlds with no fuel for their ships and no food for their crews. Some bases were forced to surrender simply because they ran out of power for their life support systems. The psychological effect was devastating. Zephyrian warriors had always believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. Their crystal armor made them nearly invulnerable to most weapons. Their military had conquered dozens of worlds and never lost a major battle. Now they were being defeated by an enemy they had dismissed as weak and helpless. War Commander Thraktar stood in his command center, watching reports pour in from across the Empire. Military bases were being destroyed faster than he could count them. His communication networks were failing, his supply lines were cut, his soldiers were starting to panic. "How are the humans doing this?" he demanded from his intelligence officers. Their ships were supposed to be weak exploration vessels. Their military was supposed to be a joke. Intelligence Commander Vectar brought forward a crystal tablet filled with disturbing information. "Sir, we have been wrong about the humans. Very wrong. Our agents have discovered that they have been building a secret military force for decades. Every peaceful contact they made with us was actually reconnaissance. They have been studying our weaknesses while pretending to be harmless scientists." Thraktar felt something crack in his chest. It was not his crystal armor. It was his confidence. "What do you mean they have been studying us?" "They know everything about us, sir. Our military bases, our ship designs, our biology, our culture, our fears. They have weapons specifically designed to fight crystalline life forms. They know exactly how to hurt us in ways we never imagined possible." The war commander looked at the tactical display showing human forces throughout Zephyrian space. The humans were not attacking randomly. Every strike was carefully planned to cause maximum damage while avoiding civilian casualties. They were fighting like professionals who had been preparing for this war for years. On distant worlds, Zephyrian colonists watched human ships appear in their skies. But instead of attacking the colonies, the ships broadcast messages. The voices spoke in perfect Zephyrian language, telling the civilians that humans had no quarrel with innocent people. The only targets would be military installations and those who supported the murder of Jake Morrison. This confused many Zephyrians. Their government had taught them that humans were savage creatures who would kill anyone in their path. But the human ships kept their promise. They destroyed military bases while leaving civilian areas untouched. Some human commanders even sent medical supplies to Zephyrian hospitals that had been damaged in the fighting. Ambassador Patricia Wells stood before the Galactic Council with a calm expression on her face. The other species were demanding that Earth stop its attacks on the Zephyrian Empire. They called it aggression and threatened sanctions against humanity. Jake Morrison was a scientist, Patricia said quietly. He had a wife who loved him and dreams of exploring the galaxy in peace. When War Commander Thraktar murdered him, where was the Galactic Council? You offered diplomatic protests and promised to investigate the matter over several years. That was your idea of justice for the murder of innocent people. The Altarian ambassador stood up, his blue skin flushed with anger. Earth must stop this war immediately. The Galactic Council will not tolerate such aggressive behavior. Patricia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. For 50 years, humanity has followed the rules of this council. We have been peaceful, diplomatic, and patient. We trusted you to protect innocent life and maintain justice. You failed. When you failed to deliver justice, you taught us that we must deliver it ourselves. The Rigel Federation representative tried to interrupt, but Patricia continued speaking. Jake Morrison died because someone thought humans were weak. His killer is about to learn that we are not weak. We are simply patient, but our patience has limits. Behind Patricia, screens showed footage of human warships destroying Zephyrian military installations across the galaxy. The alien ambassadors watched in shock as they realized the true extent of human military power. For decades, they had believed humans were dependent on the Council's protection. Now they understood that humanity had been protecting itself all along. In the deep space between stars, Admiral Stone reviewed reports from the ongoing campaign. Her forces were winning every battle, but she took no joy in the victories. Each destroyed base represented more evidence of how badly the galaxy had misjudged her species. Admiral, Captain Roberts reported from the bridge of the Vengeance, Zephyrian resistance is weakening. Their commanders are starting to withdraw from forward positions. Some military units are requesting permission to surrender. Not yet, Admiral Stone replied. War Commander Thraktar still believes he can win this war. He still thinks we are the same species he murdered 3 weeks ago. He needs to learn that killing Jake Morrison changed everything. Colonel Mitchell's Special Forces teams continued their work throughout Zephyrian space. They moved like deadly shadows, striking where the enemy felt safe and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. Each attack carried the same message. Humanity remembers Jake Morrison, and humanity never forgives the murder of innocent people. Dr. Park's weapons grew more sophisticated with each passing day. She had created devices that could target specific crystal formations in Zephyrian bones, causing paralysis without permanent damage. She had sonic weapons that induced terror in crystalline nervous systems. She had tools of war that no species had ever imagined, designed by a grandmother who looked like she should be baking cookies instead of planning battles. The galaxy watched in amazement and fear as humanity systematically dismantled the Zephyrian Empire's military power. Other species began reviewing their own interactions with humans, wondering what weaknesses had been cataloged about their civilizations. Everyone started to ask the same question. War Commander Thraktar stood before the greatest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. 847 warships floated in formation around the Imperial homeworld. Their crystal hulls gleamed like deadly jewels in the light of the system's twin suns. This was the moment he would crush the humans once and for all. Today we end this embarrassment, Thraktar announced to his fleet commanders. These humans think they can challenge the Empire with their surprise attacks and terrorist tactics. They will learn what happens when they face our full military might. Imperial Admiral Zekran nodded his crystal head in agreement. The humans have been lucky so far, War Commander. They caught us unprepared with their cowardly strikes, but now we know what they can do. Our ships are ready for their tricks. Thraktar activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every Zephyrian warrior in the massive armada. Warriors of the Empire, we go now to Earth, the human homeworld. We will show these weak creatures what real strength looks like. We will destroy their planet and scatter their people across the void. The galaxy will remember this day as the moment the Empire restored order. The massive fleet engaged their hyperspace drives and vanished in flashes of blue light. They were heading for Earth, confident that their overwhelming numbers would guarantee victory. Thraktar had learned nothing from the past month of defeats. He still believed humans were weak creatures who had simply gotten lucky with a few surprise attacks. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of the command station at Centauri Junction, exactly halfway between Earth and Zephyrian space. She had been waiting here for 3 weeks, knowing that eventually Thraktar would do exactly what he was doing now. Human intelligence had predicted this moment down to the day. "Admiral," reported Captain Frank Murphy from his battlecruiser Retribution, "Zephyrian fleet detected entering the junction. 847 ships, just as our analysts predicted." Admiral Stone smiled coldly. "War Commander Thraktar is nothing if not predictable. All units, execute Operation Mousetrap. Show them what a real human fleet looks like." The space around Centauri Junction erupted with activity. Dozens of massive human warships decloaked from their hiding places among the asteroids. These were not the small research vessels the Zephyrians expected. These were ships built for one purpose: destroying other ships. Captain Murphy's Retribution was the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that fired crystalline disruptor beams. When these beams hit Zephyrian ships, the crystal hulls didn't just break. They shattered into millions of pieces like glass hit by a hammer. Commander Lisa Brooks commanded the carrier vessel, New Dawn. Her ship launched hundreds of fighter craft that moved like angry hornets through space. Each fighter was equipped with sonic weapons tuned specifically to Zephyrian biology. When they fired, the sound waves passed right through Zephyrian armor and scrambled their nervous systems. The battle was not even close to fair. The Zephyrian fleet had been designed to fight other crystal-based species or energy weapon civilizations. They had no defense against humanity's sonic disruptors, crystalline crackers, and harmonic destroyers. Within the first hour, half of Thraktar's fleet was floating debris. War Commander Thraktar watched in horror as his mighty armada was torn apart around him. His ships exploded one after another, their crystal hulls shattering like expensive vases dropped on concrete floors. The humans were not just defeating his fleet, they were destroying it with contemptuous ease. "How is this possible?" Thraktar demanded from his bridge officers. "Our intelligence said humans had weak ships and primitive weapons." "Sir," replied his tactical officer with a shaking voice, "our intelligence was wrong. These human ships are more advanced than anything we have ever seen. Their weapons seem specifically designed to fight us." The war commander felt something he had never experienced before: true fear. The humans were not lucky amateurs who had stumbled into a few victories. They were professionals who had been preparing for this exact battle for decades. Every weapon they used, every tactic they employed, every move they made, it was all planned specifically to destroy Zephyrian forces. Captain Murphy opened a communication channel to the remaining Zephyrian ships. His voice was calm and professional, like a teacher giving a lesson to slow students. "War Commander Thraktar, this is Captain Frank Murphy of the human battlecruiser Retribution. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, and your remaining crews will be treated according to galactic law." "Never!" Thraktar screamed back. "The Empire does not surrender to weak species." "We are not weak," Captain Murphy replied quietly. "We are patient. There is a difference. You killed Jake Morrison because you thought patience was weakness. You are about to learn how wrong you were." The human ships closed in on the survivors of the Zephyrian fleet. Instead of destroying them all at once, they disabled their weapons and engines, leaving them helpless but alive. This was not a massacre. This was a capture operation. Colonel Ryan Mitchell's assault teams boarded the Zephyrian command ship. They moved through the crystal corridors like deadly shadows, their sonic stunners dropping enemy warriors without killing them. Within minutes, they had reached the bridge where War Commander Thraktar waited with his remaining officers. "You," Thraktar snarled when he saw Colonel Mitchell. You are the leader of the terrorist attacks on our bases. I am Colonel Ryan Mitchell of Earth Special Forces, the human replied calmly. And you are under arrest for the murder of 13 innocent people. 2 soldiers stepped forward and placed restraints on the war commander's crystal arms. The metal bonds were specially designed with sonic generators that would cause intense pain if he tried to break free. Thraktar found himself helpless for the first time in his military career. Admiral Stone materialized as a hologram in the middle of the captured bridge. She looked directly at War Commander Thraktar with cold, angry eyes. You wanted to teach Jake Morrison about strength, she said quietly. Now I will teach you about consequences. The Admiral gestured to her aide, who activated a portable screen. The device showed footage of Jake Morrison's final transmission, the moment when he tried to protect his wife and crew from Thraktar's murderous decision. This man never hurt anyone in his entire life, Admiral Stone continued. His crime was existing in a universe where you wanted to prove your strength. Watch this again, War Commander. Watch the moment you decided to murder innocent people for no reason except your own pride. Thraktar was forced to watch as Jake Morrison died again on the screen. But this time, he saw it differently. He saw the fear in Lisa Morrison's eyes. He heard the pain in Jake's voice as he begged for his crew's lives. He realized for the first time that he had not killed dangerous enemies. He had murdered a family. Dr. Helen Park appeared on the ship's main screen, broadcasting from her laboratory on Earth. Behind her, technicians worked on a device that hummed with deadly energy. The weapon was beautiful and terrifying, like a crystal sculpture designed by angels to destroy worlds. War Commander, Dr. Park said with the voice of a kindly grandmother, I want to show you something we have been working on. This device can target the resonant frequency of any crystalline structure. When activated, it creates a harmonic cascade that reduces crystal formations to dust. She gestured to a small asteroid made entirely of crystal that floated outside her laboratory. This rock is similar in composition to your homeworld's crust. Watch what happens when we test our harmonic disruptor. The weapon fired a beam of invisible energy at the asteroid. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then tiny cracks appeared on the surface. The cracks spread and multiplied, growing larger by the second. Within minutes, the entire asteroid crumbled into glittering powder that scattered in the solar wind. Your homeworld has a crystal core, Dr. Park explained cheerfully. One harmonic disruptor planted in the right location could turn your entire planet into space dust. We could make your species extinct in an afternoon. Thraktar felt his crystal legs go weak beneath him. The humans could destroy his entire civilization with a single weapon. They could commit genocide against his people, easier than he had murdered Jake Morrison. But Admiral Stone was not finished with her lesson. We could destroy your homeworld, she said. We could wipe out your entire species. We have the power to do both of those things right now, but we will not. The war commander looked up in confusion. Why not? Because, Admiral Stone replied, we are not you. We do not murder innocent people. We are better than that. But we will never forget what you did to Jake Morrison, and we will never allow it to happen again. Captain Murphy's voice echoed through the captured ship's communication. System. Attention all Zephyrian personnel. Your empire has 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. You will dismantle your military forces, pay reparations for the murder of the Morrison crew, and submit to human oversight of your government. If you refuse, we will demonstrate our harmonic disruptor on one of your uninhabited moons. After that demonstration, you will have another 48 hours to reconsider. The transmission ended, leaving War Commander Thraktar alone with his thoughts and his fear. He had wanted to teach the galaxy about strength. Instead, he had learned that real strength. The crystal towers of the Zephyrian capital city gleamed in the morning light as Emperor Kekthon signed the surrender documents. His hands shook as he wrote his name on the treaty that ended the war. After 3,000 years of ruling the galaxy's most powerful empire, he was bowing to a species that had reached the stars only 50 years ago. Captain Roger Kelly stood beside the Emperor as witness to the signing. Roger was a fair man who believed in justice, but he was also completely ruthless when dealing with those who harmed innocent people. His job was to oversee the dismantling of the Zephyrian military and make sure they never again threatened peaceful species. Your Majesty, Captain Kelly said politely, the terms are simple. Your military forces will be reduced to defensive units only. All weapons capable of destroying planets will be handed over to human forces. War Commander Thraktar will stand trial for the murder of Jake Morrison and his crew. In return, your people will be allowed to rebuild their civilization under human protection. Emperor Kekthan looked up with tired eyes. Protection? You mean occupation? No, Captain Kelly replied firmly. Protection means we will defend your people from those who might seek revenge for your past actions. Many species have suffered under Zephyrian rule for centuries. Without human protection, some of them might decide to return the favor. The Emperor understood. His empire had made many enemies over the millennia. Now that the Zephyrians were weak, those enemies might come looking for payback. Only human intervention would keep his people safe from the consequences of their own past cruelty. On Earth, President William Carter stood before the United Nations Assembly to announce the end of the war. Representatives from every human colony world had gathered to hear his speech. The room was filled with the families of the E. Morrison crew, including Jake's parents and Lisa's sister. Today, the Zephyrian Empire has surrendered unconditionally, President Carter announced. War Commander Thraktar will face trial for murder. The galaxy has learned that humanity will not tolerate the killing of innocent people. But this victory comes at a price that we must never forget. Behind the president, a large screen showed photos of Jake Morrison and his crew. They looked so young, so full of hope for the future. Their deaths had changed the course of galactic history, but they would never see the better universe their sacrifice had created. Ambassador Patricia Wells walked into the Galactic Council chambers carrying a thick document. The other species representatives looked nervous as she approached the speaking platform. They had all watched humanity destroy the mighty Zephyrian Empire in a matter of weeks. Now they wondered what changes humans would demand of the galactic government. Members of the Council, Patricia began, humanity presents the Morrison Doctrine for your consideration. This document establishes new laws for the protection of innocent life throughout the galaxy. She activated a holographic display that showed the key points of the doctrine. The rules were simple, but revolutionary. Any species that attacked unarmed civilians would face immediate human intervention. Any government that committed genocide would be removed from power. Any military that targeted innocent people would be disbanded. The Altarian ambassador raised his blue hand nervously. Ambassador Wells, these rules would make humanity the enforcers of galactic law. No single species has ever held such power. Then, no single species should have been allowed to murder innocent people without consequences, Patricia replied calmly. The Galactic Council had 50 years to create a system that protected the weak from the strong. You failed. Jake Morrison died because you failed. Now humanity will ensure that no other Jake Morrison dies alone and helpless. The Rigel Federation representative stood up angrily. You cannot simply declare yourselves the galaxy's police force. The other species will never accept human dominance. Patricia smiled, but there was steel in her voice. We are not asking for your acceptance. We are informing you of how things will be from now on. Any species that wants human protection will receive it. Any species that threatens innocence will face human justice. The choice is yours. Captain Emma Davis received her orders while orbiting the peaceful world of Andromeda Prime. Her ship, the UES Guardian, was part of humanity's new protection fleet. The Andromedans had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 200 years. Now, they were free, but they needed protection from other predatory species. Captain, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a distress call from the Andromedan capital. Rigelian raiders are demanding tribute payments. They claim the Andromedans are now unprotected without Zephyrian rule. Emma's face hardened. Set course for Andromeda Prime. Charge all weapons. Send a message to the Rigelian ships. You have 60 seconds to leave Andromedan space, or we will remove you permanently. The Rigelian commander was a cruel being who had spent decades robbing weak species. He laughed when he received the human message. One human ship against our entire raiding fleet? These humans are as stupid as the Zephyrians said. His laughter stopped when the Guardian's weapons opened. Fire! The human ship moved like a living thing, dodging Rigelian plasma bolts while returning fire with devastating accuracy. Within minutes, half the raiding fleet was destroyed, and the rest were fleeing into hyperspace. This is Captain Emma Davis. To all Rigelian forces, she broadcast on all frequencies. The Andromedans are under human protection. Any future attacks on this world will be considered acts of war against Earth. We destroyed the Zephyrian Empire for killing 13 humans. Imagine what we will do to you for threatening an entire planet of innocent people. The message was received throughout the galaxy. Species that had spent centuries bullying weaker civilizations suddenly found themselves facing a new reality. Humanity was now the strongest military force in known space, and they were using that strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. General Marcus Cole established military training academies on dozens of worlds. Officers like Colonel Sarah Thompson and Major Tim Rodriguez taught the new doctrine to both human and alien students. The lessons were simple: overwhelming response to aggression against innocents, mercy for those who surrender, and protection for those who cannot protect themselves. The goal is not conquest, Colonel Thompson explained to her mixed class of human and alien cadets. Our goal is to create a galaxy where species like Jake Morrison can explore in peace without fear of being murdered by bullies. Major Rodriguez added, "We learned something important from the Morrison incident. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the presence of justice. When justice fails, good people die and evil people prosper. Our job is to make sure justice never fails." Again. Dr. Helen Park's research facilities began producing defensive technologies for allied species. The weapons that had shattered the Zephyrian Empire were now being redesigned to protect innocent worlds. Sonic shields that could stop invasion fleets. Harmonic barriers that made planets invisible to aggressive species. Communication networks that would alert human forces the moment any world came under attack. But the most important change was not technological, it was psychological. Throughout the galaxy, aggressive species began to think twice before attacking weaker neighbors. The memory of the Zephyrian Empire's destruction served as a constant reminder of what happened to those who murdered innocents. War Commander Thraktar sat in his cell aboard the human prison ship Justice, waiting for his trial to begin. He had been given comfortable quarters, regular meals, and access to legal representation. The humans treated him better than he had ever treated his own prisoners. Admiral Rebecca Stone visited him one final time before the trial. "Do you understand now what you did wrong?" she asked. Thraktar looked up with eyes that had learned humility. "I killed innocent people because I thought it would make me look strong. Instead, it made me the weakest being in the galaxy." Jake Morrison was exploring the stars because he believed the universe was full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Admiral Stone said quietly, "You killed him because you believed the universe was full of enemies waiting to be conquered. Your trial will decide which vision of the future the galaxy will follow." The old galactic order was dead. The age when strong species could prey on the weak had ended with the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. A new era was beginning, one where justice was enforced by those who had the power to enforce it and the wisdom to use that power responsibly. Jake Morrison had died alone in the darkness of space, murdered for the crime of being curious about the universe. But his death had awakened something in humanity that would ensure no other explorer would ever die so helplessly again. The galaxy was learning a new lesson about strength. Real strength was not the ability to destroy others. Real strength was the willingness to protect others, even at great cost to yourself. And humanity had proven they were the strongest species in the galaxy. 5 years had passed since Jake Morrison died in the Kepler 442 system. The galaxy looked very different now. Where once strong species had bullied the weak, there was peace enforced by human fleets. Where once aggressive empires had expanded, through conquest there were defensive alliances protected by Earth's military might. Fleet Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the observation deck of the massive space station that orbited where Jake Morrison had been murdered. The station was called Morrison Memorial, and it served as the headquarters for humanity's protection fleet. Every day, thousands of young officers from dozens of species came here to learn about justice, mercy, and the proper use of military power. "Admiral," Captain Rachel Stone reported as she entered the observation deck. Rachel was Rebecca's daughter, now commanding her own ship in the protection fleet. "The morning briefing is ready. We have 3 new species requesting protection status and 2 reports of aggressive behavior that need investigation." Admiral Stone nodded as she watched the steady flow of ships moving through the system. Exploration vessels, trade convoys, diplomatic transports, and research teams all traveled safely under the protection of human warships. This was what Jake Morrison had dreamed of, a galaxy where people could explore and learn without fear. President Victoria Hayes had taken office 2 years earlier, continuing the policies that President Carter had established. She stood now, in the Oval Office of Earth's capital, meeting with Ambassador Patricia Wells about the latest developments in galactic politics. "The Draconian Republic has made first contact," Ambassador Wells reported. "They seem to be a militaristic species, similar to what the Zephyrians were before we humbled them. They've requested a formal meeting to discuss trade agreements." President Hayes looked thoughtful. "What do our intelligence reports say about them?" "They have a history of conquest and slavery. Their empire spans about 50 star systems, all taken by force. They've been watching our conflict with the Zephyrians very carefully. Dr. Wright believes they want to test our resolve." Dr. Kevin Wright had taken over the Prometheus initiative after Dr. Park's retirement. He was younger than his predecessor, but just as brilliant and just as dedicated to protecting innocent life. His teams had spent years studying the Draconians, preparing for the day when they would inevitably challenge human authority. Captain Julie Foster commanded the diplomatic vessel New Horizon, which was approaching the neutral system, where first contact with the Draconians would take place. Her ship was armed with the latest defensive technology, but she hoped she would not need to use it. The goal was always peace through strength, not war through aggression. The Draconian flagship was an impressive sight. It looked like a massive dragon made of metal and energy, with weapons that could glass entire planets. The ship's commander was War Duke Sharthak, a veteran of dozens of successful invasions. He had come to this meeting expecting to negotiate with another weak species that could be intimidated into submission. "Welcome to the Proxima system," Captain Foster said, as the 2 ships established communication. "I am Captain Julie Foster of the Earth Protection Fleet. We are honored to meet representatives of the Draconian Republic." War Duke Sharthak appeared on the main screen, a towering figure covered in scales and scars. His voice was deep and threatening. "I am War Duke Sharthak of the Draconian Empire. We have watched your recent conflict with the Zephyrians. Impressive for such a young species. We propose an alliance. Together, we could rule the galaxy." "Thank you for the offer," Captain Foster replied politely. "But humanity has no interest in ruling anyone. We prefer to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The War Duke laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Protection? You mean slavery with better marketing. All strong species eventually conquer the weak. It is the natural order of the universe." Captain Foster gestured to her communications officer, who activated a special display screen. The image showed the memorial wall in the ship's honor hall, filled with names of those who had died protecting innocent life. At the top of the list, in letters of gold, was written, "Jake Morrison, scientist, explorer, husband." War Duke. "I would like to tell you about Jake Morrison," Captain Foster said quietly. "He was one human who died because someone thought we were weak. That person learned we are not weak. We are simply patient. We prefer peace, but we are very, very good at war when peace is no longer an option." She activated another display that showed footage from the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. The Draconian watched as human ships tore apart the crystal vessels like a pack of wolves attacking sheep. His confident expression began to change as he realized what he was seeing. The Zephyrians were the strongest military power in this part of the galaxy, Captain Foster continued. They ruled for 3,000 years through fear and violence. We destroyed their entire empire in 4 weeks because they killed one innocent human. What do you think we would do to a species that threatened entire planets full of innocent people? Warduke Sharthak was quiet for a long moment. He had come to this meeting expecting to intimidate a weak species into becoming his allies. Instead, he was looking at the most dangerous military force in the galaxy, commanded by people who used that power to protect others rather than conquer them. Your fleet is impressive, the Warduke admitted, but the Draconian Empire has conquered 50 worlds. We are not easily intimidated. Neither were the Zephyrians, Captain Foster replied. But they learned that there is a difference between being strong and being right. Strength without justice is just bullying, and humanity has a very simple policy regarding bullies. Behind Captain Foster, the tactical display showed the positions of human ships throughout the sector. There were dozens of them, all equipped, with weapons specifically designed to fight reptilian-based species. The Draconians had been studied just as thoroughly as the Zephyrians had been. On Earth, Admiral Stone watched the first contact meeting through secure communication channels. She had hoped the Draconians would be reasonable, but she was prepared for the alternative. Humanity had learned that some species only understood strength. Commander Ashley Garcia led the new Exploration Corps, continuing Jake Morrison's mission of peaceful discovery. Her ships carried full scientific equipment and were escorted by warships commanded by officers like Captain Chris Anderson. Each vessel bore the motto that had become humanity's promise to the galaxy: Remember Morrison. The research teams worked, in perfect safety now, knowing that any threat to their missions would bring swift and overwhelming retaliation. They had discovered 17 new habitable worlds in the past year, each one protected by human law from aggressive colonization or exploitation. War Commander Thraktar had been found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. He spent his days in a human penal colony, working in the gardens that fed the other prisoners. The humans treated him with the same mercy he had shown Jake Morrison, which was to say, none, but within the bounds of justice rather than cruelty. Warden Matthew Torres checked on the former war commander every day. "How are you feeling today, Thraktar?" he would ask. "I am learning," the crystal being would reply. "I am learning what it means to be responsible for the lives of others." Thraktar had become a symbol of the old galaxy's brutality, but also of the possibility for redemption. Even the worst criminals could learn to be better given time and proper guidance. The humans believed in justice, but they also believed in the possibility that people could change. Warduke Sharthak finally spoke again after studying the human fleet positions. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain Foster?" "Simple," she replied. "Join the Galactic Protection Alliance. Dismantle your slave systems and give those worlds their freedom. Use your military to protect weak species instead of conquering them. In return, you will have human support against any external threats and access to our defensive technologies." "And if we refuse?" Captain Foster's expression did not change, but her voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Then you will learn the same lesson the Zephyrians learned. Humanity protects innocent life. Anyone who threatens innocent life becomes our enemy. We have never lost a war, Warduke. We do not intend to start now." The Draconian leader looked at his tactical officers who were all staring at their displays with worried expressions. The human fleet was positioned perfectly to destroy his ships if negotiations failed. But more than that, he could see the absolute determination in Captain Foster's eyes. These humans meant every word they said. "The Draconian Republic accepts your terms," Warduke Sharthak said finally. "We will join your protection alliance." Captain Foster smiled warmly. "Welcome to the new galaxy, Warduke. I think you will find that protecting others is far more rewarding than conquering them." The communication ended, and Captain Foster turned to look at the memorial plaque on her bridge. Jake Morrison's picture showed a young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He had wanted to explore the stars and make friends with alien species. His death had made that dream possible for countless others. In the Morrison Memorial Station, Admiral Stone received the report of the Draconian surrender with satisfaction. Another aggressive species had been convinced to join the alliance, another group of enslaved,